Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to be creating 2 cards again and using one background die. So here's the background die that I'm going to be using, and the first card I have cut out. I have here in front of me a piece of silver cardstock, a piece of smoke cardstock, which is the middle grey, the lighter grey, and the darker grey is the slate cardstock. And those 2 grey cardstocks are from simonsaysstamp.com. Then I have a piece of just plain computer copy paper, super thin paper, and I have these adhesive, double-sided adhesive sheets. This one in particular is from scrapbook.com, and I'm just putting that little piece of copy paper, which I cut to be ever so slightly smaller than the background die, and just gluing it down so that now that whole piece of copy paper is covered in adhesive. From here I'm taking that dark slate grey outline of the background die, so I just took out everything that will come out of it and laid it down onto that adhesive. So now all of the parts that you can see that are white are sticky. And so I am just going to do some sort of die cut inlay and put in these lighter grey pieces. They just stick right in. It's just like putting pieces of puzzle in. And I'm editing this video right after my last one. My last video is a color stacking video, which is somewhat similar, that I created using the post stamp die. So you're welcome to go and check that one out if you're interested. So this video I am focusing on this background die because I recently purchased this. It just arrived in the mail and I couldn't wait to get started playing with it. So yeah, I've got a couple of cards here that use similar techniques but end up being a little bit different. So now, just because I wanted a pop of little something in this card, it's why I'm going to use this silvery cardstock. This is super cheap and cheerful, just from a local $2 shop that we have here in New Zealand. And I'm just going to add those 3 squares, and that's going to be the only silver part. Then I'm going to go back to the darker grey and add in the middle square, and then the tiniest little square will be in the light colour grey as well. And as I said, it makes it really, really simple when you're just popping them all in and the background is already covered in adhesive. Now I have this thanks die here, and I've cut it out of the same silver cardstock and some black cardstock and some 80-pound Nina Solar white cardstock. And I'm trying to decide whether I want to have, I know I want to have a drop shadow behind the thanks one, and I'm going to have the white will be at the front, and I think that the black looks a bit dark, and so I'm going to go for the silver behind it. So I'm just going to use a little bit of matte medium, some liquid gel medium that's in this little squeezy bottle to adhere them down. This little squeezy bottle, the thanks die and the background die are all from Aliexpress, and I will try and link these down below in the description box just in case you're interested in checking those out too. So that's what the thanks looks like with the little silver sparkly drop shadow behind it. And then at the last minute I changed my mind, and so before the glue can dry I pull it off the silver layer and I'm going to add the black layer behind it. I just think it stands out a little bit better than the silver. The silver gets lost with the lighter smoky grey colour behind it. So just doing exactly the same thing and adding some gel medium, and it dries nice and matte so you can't see it even if it spills out the sides a little bit. The only thing I did was add some white Nuvo drops, and then that is this card complete. So now we're moving on to the next card, and it starts off similar. I have that same thanks die, the same background die that I'm going to use. I have also cut out that background die in the darker grey, the exact same grey from before, which is the slate colour from simonsaysstamp.com. And here I have cut the background die with some black fun foam. So I've run that through my Cuttlebug machine just fine. And the only other thing is a piece of 80-pound Nina Solar white cardstock. I'm cutting it to be a little bit smaller again than the background die. And for this one in particular, this card, I'm going to use some 80-pound paper rather than the copy paper that I used last time, just because this one needed a little bit more sturdiness. It needed a little bit more stability behind it. From here, I have covered the piece of paper with some double-sided adhesive, and this is just the tape, and I've used tape to show you that you don't need to have the full adhesive sheets. You can use double-sided tape, just whatever you have about, so it doesn't really matter which you use, they both work just fine. And then again, I'm just going to lay down the outline of the background die and stick it all down to the tape, and same goes, the white parts that are left here are sticky. So this is where it's going to get a little bit different, and I'm going to bring in the fun foam. I have fast forwarded through this part because it is relatively the same thing, and I will leave you playing to some music. I am just filling in all of the white parts with the fun foam. So I will see you back here in a minute. And then I'm just going to add some liquid glue and add the remaining pieces of dark slate coloured cardstock back on top of the fun foam. So just adding on the remaining little squares, and I really like the dimension to this card. This is probably one of my favorite cards that I've made in a little while. And I really like the black peeping through. You could use any coloured fun foam, and I did think about using white, but I do really like the black that is peeping through from underneath the darker grey cardstock. Again here I've just gone for the silver thanks, and it is shadowed with a black background, and then I just actually went over with my Wink of Stella, which just creates a clear glitter, adds a little bit of clear glitter to the raised portions of this card. And then that pretty much is the card. I kept it super simple because I feel like the background is definitely the star of the show. I really like this again and might end up playing with it a little bit more. The dimension looks super cool. Anyhow, I had fun. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.